Okay, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Santa Barbara County Board of Supervisors meeting for September 23rd. It's a pleasure to have you all here. It's my honor to call this meeting to order. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Supervisor Lavanino.
Here.
Supervisor Hartman. Supervisor Nelson.
Here.
Supervisor Lee.
Here.
And Chair Capps.
Here.
Let the record reflect that Supervisor Hartman is currently absent but will be joining us momentarily.
Any minute. Okay, please join us in pledging allegiance to the flag. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, next up is approval from the minutes from last meeting.
So moved.
Thank you, Supervisor Nelson.
Second.
Thank you, Supervisor Lee. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, now we need County Executive Officer's report.
There's no report this morning, Chair.
Okay. Madam Clerk, are there any announcements or changes to our agenda this morning?
Chair Capps and members of the board, I have a couple quick announcements this morning. An addendum was posted on Friday, September 19th, 2025, adding administrative item number 31 to today's agenda. Administrative item number 31 is from the County Executive Office. It is regarding the adoption of a support position for legislation on coroners and in-custody deaths, AB 1108. The addition included in the addendum has been posted and made available online to both the board and the public. If there are no requests to speak on this item, the board may add it to the balance of the administrative agenda. I do believe we have at least one supervisor pulling this item, so we can wait to add that to the balance. And lastly, for the Board of Supervisors, methods of public participation and to provide public comment on general public comment or an item on the board's agenda, please see page 2 of the agenda. Individuals that would like to provide verbal public comment may do so via Zoom by registering in advance via the link available on page 2. If you have any questions, please contact the clerk of the board's office at area code 805-568-2240. Again, that number is 805-568-2240. And that concludes my announcements for today.
Okay, thanks so much. That sounds good. We'll move to the administrative agenda. Any board members like to pull any items from the agenda? I can tell you what I have so far. Or Supervisor Lavanino.
Madam Chair, I'd like to pull A11, please. Not for a separate vote, just for a highlight.
Okay. And I have, go ahead,
Yes,
Supervisor.
15, 21, and 22.
All right, 15, 21, 22. Supervisor Lee.
A9 and A20.
Okay.
No, A12. Just A9 and 20. Yeah.
So let's just review, because I had some that were previously pulled, so let's just make sure we got them all set. A9, A11, A15, A20 is still or no? Yes. Yes, A21, A22,
Yep.
and still A31? No. Okay. All right, and have any members of the public pulled any administrative items?
Chair Capps and members of the board, we have no requests to speak from the public on the administrative agenda.
Okay, I think we have enough from the board. So we will entertain a motion to approve the balance of the administrative agenda, except for those items I just spelled out.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. All right, now we're to the portion of the agenda that many of you are here for, which are the resolutions to be presented. Madam Clerk, when you're ready, let's move to our first administrative item, number 1, into the record.
Chair Capps and members of the board, administrative item number 1 is sponsored by Supervisor Lee. It is to adopt a resolution proclaiming the week of September 29th, 2025 through October 5th, 2025 as American Institute of Architects, AIA, Architecture Appreciation Week in Santa Barbara County. And joining us in person today, we have Michael Holliday, Principal Architect, and Matt Grise, AIA Santa Barbara President. And if you can please make your way to the podium, and I'll go ahead and read the resolution. Whereas more than 175 licensed members of the American Institute of Architects, AIA, practice in the Santa Barbara area, where they serve the public interest through their concern for and understanding of sustainable design practices energy conservation, accessibility for people with disabilities, urban planning, historic preservation, affordable housing, and sensitivity to the relationship between nature and the built environment. And whereas Architectural Foundation volunteers guide public tours of the history and architecture of Santa Barbara, provide children the opportunity to sketch local architecture with Kids Draw Architecture, work with teachers to establish a built environment education program, BEEP, in Santa Barbara's public schools, and provide scholarships to county students. And whereas Santa Barbara's architects have worked diligently to preserve the architectural heritage of our community through service on local architectural review boards, various public outreach, and education efforts and service projects. And whereas the AIA Santa Barbara chapter has produced an annual design awards program to recognize and promote high-quality architecture and design in commercial, residential, educational, and institutional work throughout our county. And whereas the AIA Santa Barbara chapter has produced Architect Tours, an annual inspirational and educational tour of noteworthy residential and public projects focused on high-quality design and showcasing the application of sustainable and green building practices and affordable housing projects. Now therefore be it hereby ordered and resolved that this Board of Supervisors of the County of Santa Barbara does hereby designate the week of September 29th through October 5th as AIA Architectural Appreciation Week in Santa Barbara County, and commends the American Institute of Architects and the Architectural Foundation for over 160 years of preserving and enhancing the architectural heritage of Santa Barbara County. Passed and adopted today.
Madam Chair, members of the board, my name is Michael Holliday. I'm a local architect. This is Matt Grice, the AIA Santa Barbara president of our chapter, and we're honored to receive this resolution on behalf of the AIA this morning for the 2025 Architecture Appreciation Week for Santa Barbara County. We have a similar one for the city of Santa Barbara, so Roy, we really appreciate you stepping up and doing this. Truly, the inscription on the Santa Barbara County Courthouse rings true for all of us here today. God gave us the country, the skill of man has built the town. I love that. Santa Barbara is probably one of the most beautiful places on the planet, and we get to enjoy it every day. We want to thank you for this resolution, and we'd like to invite all of you on the board and the greater Santa Barbara community to join us for the 2025 Architect Tours exhibit next Saturday, October 4th from 10 to 4. It's a downtown tour of 8 projects that are sort of been selected. Some are on State Street, some are custom residential projects that demonstrate Santa Barbara's outstanding, innovative, and sustainable architecture. So thank you again for this resolution. And Supervisor Lee, our firm recently completed Linden Square right downtown Carpinteria. So if you haven't been there, we'd love to have you guys come down on us to see what can happen when some great, get some creative design in a downtown area. It's kind of created a whole new hub for Carpinteria. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah. Supervisor Lee.
I just want to say Linden Square has become the center of town, and very impressive about your work, so thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. I concur on Linden Square. Resolution number 2.
Chair Capps and members of the board. Administrative item number 2 is sponsored by Supervisor Capps. It is to adopt a resolution proclaiming the month of September 2025 as National Preparedness Month in Santa Barbara County. And joining us in person today, we have Jackie Ruiz and Stacy Silva. And I'll go ahead and read the resolution. Whereas National Preparedness Month reminds local community members that preparedness starts with you. And whereas when individuals take responsibility for preparing their homes, businesses, families, and communities, the chance of survival and return to normalcy following a disaster is greatly increased. And whereas the Office of Emergency Management and partners encourage everyone to make an emergency plan, build or refresh their disaster supply kits, register or update emergency contact information at www.readysbc.org for emergency alerts, and engage in community preparedness training opportunities. And whereas Santa Barbara County Public Safety Agencies launched a countywide emergency zones map to assist the public in understanding where emergencies protective actions apply. Maps can be viewed at www.readysbc.org/emergency or by downloading the Genesis Protect app on mobile devices. And whereas during September, the Office of Emergency Management and partners have engaged the community through tabling events, public education presentations, social media outreach, and reminders and training for staff on their role as disaster service workers. And whereas we may not know when the next disaster or emergency will confront us, so we must remain ready. Together, we can make Santa Barbara County a safer and more resilient place to live and visit. Now, therefore, be it hereby ordered and resolved that this Board of Supervisors of the County of Santa Barbara does hereby acknowledge the month of September 2025 as National Preparedness Month, passed and adopted today.
Chair Capps, members of the board, we would like to thank you for taking a moment of your day to recognize September as National Preparedness Month. The discussion internally and what wound up being the theme for the national month was preparedness starts with you. It all begins and ends at this local level with us as individuals. As an operational area, which includes our city partners and our nonprofit entities, throughout the month of September, we have taken the opportunity to do tabling and education events at farmers markets, library education and outreach, and presentations in both English and Spanish, reminders to not just our county staff, but to staff throughout the operational area, city partners as well, of their role during emergencies, and a lot of community disaster education at existing events throughout Santa Barbara County. As mentioned in the resolution, we want to, of course, encourage our community to take time and prepare themselves by registering or validating their emergency information at readysbc.org. And more so, we were very excited during the month of September to launch our Genesis evacuation platform. This allows us to break the county using a lot of opportunities into zones, emergency zones, and we're calling it our emergency zones map. This is not an alerting tool. This is an information resource to help our community. So this month and today, we encourage everybody to download Genesis Protect, which is available through whatever store you happen to get your apps from. And make sure that when you download that, you enable your location settings. That allows the platform to notify you in the event that there is an emergency protective action within the area that you are. So if you're at the grocery store, as long as you have that enabled, that Genesis app can alert you. Again, it does not replace our emergency notifications. That will still be done through readysbc.org. But community members, if you'd like more information or you're curious where your home lies, you can go to readysbc.org/emergency, type in your address, and it will help you identify your zone. So with that, again, as September is coming to an end, we want to thank you and thank all of our county partners and departments that are here today for assisting us in preparing our staff and our community to be more resilient during disasters. Jackie or Chief, did any? No? Okay, thank you.
Well, I just wanted to add, as I've said before in these hearings, that my understanding is only 14% of people have signed up for readysbc.org. So the odds are someone in this room has not signed up for readysbc.org, and certainly many people watching have not signed up for readysbc.org. So the most basic way to plan for a disaster is to know what's happening, and that's the most basic way to do it. So if people could just increase those numbers by signing up. It takes about 45 seconds. readysbc.org. Thanks. Okay, moving on to resolution number 3.
Chair Capps and members of the board, administrative item number 3 is sponsored by Supervisor Capps. It is to adopt a resolution acknowledging the Interfaith Initiative in Santa Barbara County. And joining us in person today, we have Mohammed Khan, Frank Beneles, Ivor John, and Dr. Seda Hamdani. And if you can please make your way to the podium. And I will go ahead and read the resolution. Whereas Santa Barbara County is recognized as a beacon of multi-faith harmony, where diverse faith traditions increasingly weave into the fabric of everyday life, enriching the social, cultural, and spiritual life of the community. And whereas the residents of Santa Barbara County celebrate the vibrant tapestry of beliefs that characterize our multi-faith community, fostering unity, understanding, and open dialogue among people of different faiths and backgrounds. And whereas by embracing a wide array of faiths and cultures, Santa Barbara County cultivates an environment that values diversity, promotes a sense of belonging for all individuals, and strengthens the county's distinctive identity as a place of inclusion and respect. And whereas in alignment with the principles of peace, justice, and equity, the Interfaith Initiative encourages the community to pledge itself as a multi-faith county, committing to nonviolence, access to essential resources such as education, healthcare, security, and technology, and to treating all individuals with fairness, compassion, and respect. And whereas the residents in leadership of Santa Barbara County aspire to uphold truth, rationality, and ethical decision-making in public and private life, acting with justice and compassion while celebrating the diversity of faiths, cultures, and lifestyles that enrich the lives of all county residents. Now, therefore, be it hereby ordered and resolved that this Board of Supervisors acknowledges and supports the Interfaith Initiative of Santa Barbara County and encourages all residents to join in fostering a community grounded in mutual respect, understanding, and harmony among diverse faiths and cultures, passed and adopted today.
Thank you very much, Supervisor Capps and the board. We're honored. And as faith people and our Jewish board members couldn't make it today, so I want to start off by saying Shana Tova to all those who celebrate Rosh Hashanah, and may it be a sweet year for not just the Jewish community, but everyone. I will start out with a prayer, multi-faith prayer. That's what faith people do. I'll start out with Spanish. Dios, mi corazón anhela por ti. Toda la gloria es tuya, mi Dios. God, our hearts yearn for you. We yearn for peace. All glory and praise is to you. And in the original language of Jesus, peace be upon him, the language he spoke in Aramaic, Shukha la Allah. All glory and all praise is only to you, God. And in Hebrew, Baruch Shemu Liolam Va'id. Blessed is your name for eternity. And in Arabic, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. In the name of God, the most compassionate, the most merciful, all praise and thanks is only to you, the Lord of all the worlds. God, we thank the board and the supervisors. We ask you to bless the Santa Barbara County. We have a beautiful resolution promoting love, harmony, peace, and compassion. Now, God, bless us with the second heavy lift, which is to implement it. Again, I thank the board, Supervisor Capps, and the whole board. You just set the policy for what we want in this county. Now I'd like Ivor to say a few words. This is our board.
Thank you, Brother Mohammed. My name is Ivor John. Chair Capps and members of the board, it's a privilege to be here. I've been a board member of IFI for over 10 years. And today, and in that time, I've had the privilege of working with some inspiring and caring faith leaders and lay people in this community. Today, we begin a new chapter with Brother Mohammed's leadership, and there's no better way to begin it, from my perspective, than to have this resolution passed and have the support of you, our supervisors, in moving forward with this. So thank you all very much, and thanks for the really good work you do for our community in general. Thank you.
Frank is really humble. He's one of my greatest allies. So Frank, been here in Santa Barbara forever. I'm honored to have him on my board.
Thank you, Board of Supervisors, especially Supervisor Capps, for this resolution. I don't want to go over the same thing that the other folks have just said, but I would like to say that it's more important today about what we're set off to do than at any time in our country, as far as I'm concerned. So we welcome all residents of Santa Barbara to be a part of our organization. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Saida Hamdani. I want to thank Supervisor Capps and the board for making this resolution possible. I'm speaking on behalf of my husband, Jamal Hamdani, who I feel is with us today in spirit. He was passionate about world peace and creating a nonviolent and equitable world. He founded the nonprofit World Harmony Online in 2001. He believed that we could change the world for better once we had created the change within ourselves. And he asked that we each start that internal change by taking the World Harmony Pledge. This pledge involves commitment to 5 basic principles. Number 1, give to others what we want for ourselves. Number 2, make rational, fact and principle-based decisions. Number 3, speak the truth. Number 4, be just and compassionate in all our thoughts and actions. And lastly, do everything we can to create a nonviolent and equitable world with access to education, healthcare, and technology for all. He believed that the path to world harmony goes through each of us. These principles, which are found universally in all faiths, are beautifully encapsulated in the proclamation by the County of Santa Barbara. He would be so proud that our county is a leader in the march to world peace, and truly the first World Harmony County in the country. Thank you.
Thank you again. We appreciate it. Thank you. Just if I have 1 minute, our good friend Tepo Lalama has always been supportive. Tepo, can you say a word? Oh, sorry, folks.
Sorry, can you take one? I just simply, I'm a Tibetan Buddhist, and I just came here to join to support for the movement who is a great work, made hard for the human rights, and also great support for a lot of this, especially this time. This time is a very uncertainty time and fear, a lot of fear, distractions, and this time all the community people need help for the harmony and the unity. And I really appreciate for Santa Barbara County Board of Supervisors and people of Santa Barbara and here at the moment and their team. They're working hard for the harmony and team. I wish all the best and all the world peace, and the world will be better in peace. Thank you very much. Thank you. And this was especially for him.
Thank you. Actually, we should give it to the supervisor.
Well, thank you.
Sponsor the cap.
Okay. Thank you so much. That's beautiful. Thank you. Well, thank you so much. I want to thank the members of the Interfaith Initiative. All of the resolutions are beautiful and meaningful. This one is particularly meaningful to me. I believe there's so much compassionate interfaith work that goes on every day in this community. What makes the headlines globally, nationally, is the division between religions, but what is far more pervasive and overwhelming is the connectivity between faiths, the commonality between faiths that happens all of the time, and the commonality between those who aren't of a particular faith as well. And that's the way that I was raised, and I'm so proud of that tradition, proud of my father, who was a religious studies professor and raised me to have pride and respect for people of all different faiths. And what you've done with this Interfaith initiative on your own volunteer time to build bridges, break bread, have interfaith services, to keep that going, especially now. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Thank you for being here.
Chair Capps and members of the board, administrative item number 4 is sponsored by Supervisor Lee. It is to adopt a resolution of commendation honoring Kristen Hughes as the Central Coast Medical Association, CCMA, 2025 Physician of the Year in Santa Barbara County. And joining us in person today, we have Kristen Hughes. Whereas Dr. Kristen Hughes joined the County of Santa Barbara Health Department on February 16, 2016 as a staff physician and was promoted to chief physician of the Franklin Healthcare Center in 2024. During her tenure at Franklin Health Center, she has advanced team-based care and did so with enthusiasm, energy, and vision. Dr. Hughes led and implemented an ambulatory pediatric residence clinic and ensured patients with diabetics were screened for diabetic retinopathy through the successful implementation of the IPACS robotic system, providing one-stop healthcare access for the patients at Franklin Health Center. And whereas her combined passion for medicine and physical activity also led her to pursue the UCSF Champion Provider Fellowship, addressing nutrition, physical activity, and chronic disease prevention in children. This fellowship helped her address upstream determinants of health, such as the social and environmental factors that shaped well-being. And whereas in addition to her clinical responsibilities, Dr. Hughes has remained highly engaged in the community, participating in school activities and representing the clinic in various forums. Dr. Hughes' service to the underserved has been a cornerstone of her career and reflects her deepest values as a physician. As a volunteer in Haiti, Africa, and Central America, she witnessed firsthand the devastating impact of preventable diseases, and this reinforced the extraordinary value of immunizations and public health infrastructure. And whereas Dr. Hughes embraced the importance of service, which led her to become involved in advocacy work across many sectors and online platforms, her focus is intentional, and her belief is it is essential for physicians to extend their leadership beyond the clinic walls, becoming advocates and partners in the community to address the broader social, economic, political, and environmental factors that influence health services. And ultimately, her heart and mission to serve the most vulnerable in our own local community inspired her to join the County of Santa Barbara Health Department. And now, therefore, be it hereby ordered and resolved that this Board of Supervisors of the County of Santa Barbara does hereby acknowledge resolution recognizing Dr. Kristen Hughes for 2025 CCMA Physician of the Year Award. Passed and adopted today.
Good morning, and thank you very much. I wasn't supposed to speak, actually. Dr. Preciado was supposed to be here, but I'm very honored that I can step in and say a few words on behalf of Dr. Hughes. It doesn't take you long to recognize greatness, especially when you're encountering that on a day-to-day basis. Dr. Hughes stepped into her role as chief physician with passion, dedication, but also with the ultimate purpose of providing quality care as well as leadership to our team. And it's not a secret that in challenging times, such leadership is very much needed and very much appreciated. However, as the saying says, a prophet among his own people sometimes is not recognized, and it's something that I didn't know until the recognition by CCMA of her long history of dedication and devotion to the career as well as to the communities and her volunteerism work that she has done. So while she was recognized by her peers last week, I am so happy that we recognize her as one of our team members and one of our physician leaders that is going to take us through these hard times. So congratulations, Christian.
Thank you, Dr. Hamami. And thank you sincerely for this recognition from the board. I'm so honored. It is truly, truly an honor to serve as a physician within the Santa Barbara County Public Health Department, which for the past 100 years has provided essential safety net care to our most vulnerable community members. I am privileged to work alongside dedicated colleagues and staff who labor tirelessly to advance our mission to prevent disease, promote wellness, and ensure equitable access to care. Thank you all for your support in these endeavors.
Okay, thank you so much. Administrative item number 5.
Chair Capps and members of the board, administrative item number 5 is sponsored by Supervisor Hartman and Supervisor Nelson. It is to adopt a resolution of commendation for the participants in the successful implementation of Workday financials in Santa Barbara County. And joining us in person today, we have Mark Garcia, Workday Support Organizational Program Manager, and the entire Workday implementation team. And if you can all please make your way to the podium.
Thank you.
Whereas the County of Santa Barbara embarked on a comprehensive initiative to innovate its business processes and enhance public service delivery through the selection and implementation of the Workday Enterprise Resource Planning, ERP, software by retiring our legacy financial accounting system, FIN, which was developed in 1995. And whereas this multi-year project required dedication, perseverance, and outstanding collaboration from the project team, steering committee, department representatives, vendor partners, and many others throughout the organization to ensure the project's vision and goals were met. And whereas the project team overcame significant technical and logistical challenges throughout the implementation period, demonstrating a commitment to innovation and a steadfast commitment to the county's mission and values. And whereas after 4 years of collective effort, the successful launch of the financial accounting phase of the Workday ERP system marks a significant milestone for the county, with the continuing goals of improved efficiency, streamlined processes, enhanced data, security, and reporting capabilities. And whereas the county will continue to endeavor on implementing human resources, payroll, and other modules to strive for consistently providing better service for the residents of Santa Barbara County. Now, therefore, be it hereby ordered and resolved that this Board of Supervisors of the County of Santa Barbara does hereby extend its sincere appreciation and commendation to all who contributed to the successful implementation of Workday financials and recognizes their exemplary service and dedication to this transformative project, passed and adopted today.
Good morning. They say it takes a village to raise a child healthy and successful, and I think as you saw, it takes a village to make great change. And so I just want to take a moment and thank everybody. Thank you to the board for all your work and your guidance and their support as we endeavored through this large project. And we want to thank the CEO and her office for our guidance in helping this large multi-department project work towards one better county and one bright future, and that was wonderful. I want to thank our steering committee. I think they are all here today, but they are sitting in the back. They have reached in as necessary to help provide guidance, but basically let the project work through its path. And then the project team, as you saw, just countless people putting in hours of dedication to design, test, and teach, and help build our future. And then the county as a whole, we had people from every department doing testing, doing training, providing feedback, and just showing resilience and how to build a new way forward and work to make things successful for everybody. They say that all change is hard at first and messy in the middle, but beautiful at the end. So we're grateful for all your support to help us get through the hard times to get to the good stuff. So thank you so much.
Supervisor Hartman.
I just wanted to add my thanks to everyone. This project really demonstrated that the people who worked on it, it's not just a job, it was a calling. And it took many countless overtime hours, and the ongoing pressure, it was unrelenting for months and months and months. And we see that, we appreciate that. It's going to make a huge difference for our county in allowing us more transparency, more collaboration. It really sets the infrastructure for all of us to interact in a way that's much more effective. So our heartfelt appreciation. Thank you.
Okay. Definitely. Okay, that's it for our resolutions, and we will move on to the administrative items. Thanks to everybody involved in our resolutions. We'll move on to the administrative items pulled by the board.
Yes, thank you, Chair Capps and members of the board. We will begin with administrative item number 9. And just for the record, again, I wanted to announce the administrative items pulled by the board was administrative item number 9, 11, 15, 20, 21, and 22.
Okay.
Administrative item number 9 is from the Community Services Department and the Public Works Department. It is to consider recommendations regarding a Union Pacific Railroad UPRR Public Pedestrian at-grade crossing agreement for the Santa Claus Lane streetscape improvements and beach access project, and this is in the 1st District.
Supervisor Lee.
So the reason why I pulled this, I just want to acknowledge the hard work that Director Chris Netton and Mustafa has done to complete this. I just want to acknowledge the hard work as well as the team at SBCAG for collaborating with county on this. So it's an amazing thing for the community to make this happen. So I just want to give them the props. So wherever they are.
Sounds good. Okay, sounds like we need a motion. Is that a motion?
Yes, I move to approve.
Second.
We've got a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, administrative item number 11.
Chair Capps and members of the board, administrative item number 11 is from the Community Services Department. It is to consider recommendations regarding a budget revision to support the Santa Maria Park Ranger for Santa Maria Riverbed Patrol, and there is a 4/5 vote required on this item.
Okay, Supervisor Lavenino.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I know I've talked about this a couple of times, every time it comes up, but it's because it was such a high-profile problem for North County. I mean, every time you drove across the bridge, we'd look out and we'd see a whole nother city out there in the riverbed. And just to kind of put it into perspective for people that didn't understand how large it was, there were over 100 encampments, over 120 people were moved into services. The number that just shocked me was, it was 150 tons, and I had to figure out how much that is. That's 300,000 pounds of trash and hazardous waste, dozens of animals that needed to be rehomed, and all of this was done in a humane manner, and it was carried out by Director Armis's team. Great leadership, especially with Joe Dzbanek. They handled everything, talking to each individual, because each individual there is for a different reason. They sat down and talked to each person, trying to figure out what the best path forward for them was. It wasn't easy. It wasn't even our jurisdiction. I want to remind folks that we have spent money on a problem that legally belongs to another county, but when everybody from our districts drive by, they don't care whose responsibility it is. It's in our backyard. We got to fix it. And so big shout out to the team. I'm very much in support. And what I really like about this is, as we have seen that happened in Lompoc Riverbed as well, is if you don't have that ongoing maintenance and the eyes on it so that it doesn't get repopulated again, you're going to end up in the same position 3-4 years down the road, and all the money and time, energy we spent trying to house those people just kind of goes by the wayside. So I'm very supportive of this. I also want to thank the city of Santa Maria for making a ranger available. It's going to be money very well spent. So I'd move it when we come to that.
Great, Supervisor Nelson.
Yeah, and I'll end up being your second there. This was a huge effort that, I think lent a lot of a lot of people in the community really thankful that actually they're seeing their government be responsive to a problem. A lot of people see things and say somebody should take care of that, and things never do change. But I know in the Santa Maria Valley, there's a lot of thankful people for the work that we did there. And I do want to thank the city of Santa Maria for being a great partner on this. I think this shows that when we work together between the municipality and the county, that we can get a lot done for our community. I am still concerned about the fact that this is in another county, and this agreement is between the city and the county of Santa Barbara, yet the jurisdiction is a county to the north of us that I see that is not necessarily participating in this contract. And Director Armas, I don't know if you wanted to give us a status report. I think at one point, San Francisco County was interested in participating, but I don't see them a part of this agreement. So it'd be helpful to know what the status is for SLO County. And are they potentially participating in this in the future? All along, I think Steve and I have always felt like, yes, it's a different county. They have a responsibility to keep it from being populated, but we know that there are people. And so that's why we think we've definitely taken the lead in the lion's share of the funding to this project to this point. But now that we've made this investment, it really needs the San Luis Obispo County to be engaged and making sure it doesn't get repopulated so that those dollars aren't wasted. What's the status on San Luis Obispo County's involvement?
Supervisor Nelson, through the chair, thank you for the question, and thank you first of all to you and Supervisor Lavanino. Your leadership here really allowed us to carry out this project in a very substantial way and achieve the results and the statistics that the supervisor shared with the board. Relative to San Luis Obispo, I would note that we've had a lot of discussions. They're not yet ready to sign a comparable agreement that includes the county of SLO. However, as noted in the report before you, this is only through the current fiscal year. So we hope that we can continue those conversations and hopefully persuade them that it's advantageous should this continue into the next fiscal year.
Well, again, it is their jurisdiction that we're doing ongoing enforcement in. They say, and I think the board letter, that there's overlapping jurisdiction here. I think we're being generous with calling it overlapping. Most of the Santa Maria River is in San Luis Obispo County. I think some of the lines actually go through some of the backyards in the city of Santa Maria. So there are some parcels there that are owned by County Flood Control and by the city of Santa Maria. So we acknowledge that we have some responsibilities with that, as well as the fact that they are our people. But we definitely need the San Luis Obispo County's help. And I just wanted to publicly just call them out to say that, we need partners here. It is your jurisdiction. And you'll love to see you at the table to be a financial as well as a physical partner. Thank you.
We'll share that with SLO and see if we can reach some mutual agreement.
Thank you.
Supervisor Hartman.
Well, while we're giving kudos to staff, what was learned in Santa Maria has now been applied in the Santa Ynez River in Lompoc. And Director Armas, I wonder if you would just describe what you've done there.
Thank you, Supervisor Hartman, through the chair. You'll recall that when we briefed you on the status of the Santa Maria riverbed, we indicated that we hoped that we could follow that model elsewhere in our county. And as Supervisor Hartman has indicated, we have applied this in the Santa Ynez riverbed. We've been working very closely with the city of Lompoc, including the Lompoc Police Department and the city manager's office. We've also had good coordination with the county sheriff's department. So we're attempting to not only deploy the usual resources that we deploy within our county, but also marshal the resources of the city and the sheriff's office. They've both been very cooperative, and they both indicated that with a reasonable planning, they'll be able to assist us in keeping some eyes on the river there for the very reasons that Supervisor Lavanino mentioned. We want to make sure that when an area is resolved, that it's not repopulated, and we're making some headway there. It's an expensive proposition. We've been through about 5 phases, and we have a final phase to tackle in the near future.
Great. Okay, I believe we do have a motion on the floor and a second. So all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, Director Armas. Next up is administrative item number 15.
Chair Capps and members of the board, administrative item number 15 is from the County Executive Office. It is to consider recommendations regarding a contract renewal for countywide security services provided by Triumph Protection Group, and there is a 4/5 vote required on this item.
Okay, Supervisor Nelson.
Yes, thank you, Chair Capps. A few different things with this contract that I had some questions and concerns about. As a process, on the process side, this came to us as that there was an RFP that was done for these services, but in our board letter and our attachments, none of the backup information on those other those that also applied into scoring. So, when we're asked to approve these things, at least for myself as a supervisor, I want to see that information because I think that helps us approve it. If we don't know, what the prices were or how the process went, we're not able to provide the proper oversight. So, this is just kind of on a process side, not specifically just to this contract, but, across the board for all the departments that bring things to me in board letters. I'm going to want to see that because I think that's really important for us as the body who eventually has to make the decisions and be accountable for those decisions to have that information. We do trust staff, but we want to check the math. And so I did ask for those numbers. I just got them all up on the dais. I have some questions about some irregularities in some of the scoring system here. So I'd like to see if we can actually continue this item to the next meeting so I can dig into that. I will, warn staff or my colleagues, I want to do this for the process, not because I necessarily approve of this contract or not. I do have some concerns about the contract. I have voted against it in the past. But this right now is on the process side. I want to make sure that those numbers are right and appropriate and that we've gone through the proper process here. And the other question I had on this as well and is with this contract, I know we're talking with some of our employees about potential cuts in some of our departments. Do we have flexibility in this contract if we do move forward to potentially make, renegotiate or reduction of services in the future to right-size, our future budgetary needs?
Supervisors, on some of the procurement issues that have Mr. Lagerquist come up, but on that one, the contract does have a 30-day termination for convenience or non-appropriation.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
And that's for all or in part.
Okay, that's really helpful. I just think because, that's got to be comforting for the rest of the organization, knowing that as we're looking at cuts in some places and renewing contracts at the same time, that we might be we have that flexibility.
Mr. Lagerquist, for the rest of the board's information. So this went out to bid in June, and there was a contract that was awarded. There was an interim contract that was awarded, is there, from?
Not.
No, okay.
No.
Maybe I misunderstood what you were saying.
Triumph is the incumbent.
So
I guess to answer your question, yes, there's flexibility in the contract. I mean, we can add services, we can scale back some services.
All right. Well, I'm going to ask for it again to be continued. I think I have some questions. I've got the scoring sheet that on the procurement side. I think there's some irregularities there just on a quick glance. I'm doing this on the fly. I just got the information while I was up here on the dais. Just so that we, have done the proper vetting. I like to ask some of those questions, and it's probably best that I don't ask them publicly. So I think if my colleagues would support me, I don't think there's an urgency of approving this today. If we can continue to, 2 weeks from now, our next board meeting, I would appreciate the indulgence by my colleagues.
Supervisor Harmon.
Is that true that there is no urgency? A delay wouldn't matter?
Supervisor, I'm looking at the contract. The contract start date is September, it's today. So there was a bridging contract. I'd have to ask, I don't know if Fung is here to find, is there an issue if we don't take this action today?
We would have to do some kind of a bridge contract for the next couple of weeks then.
Well, can we at least trail this to the end of the meetings to clarify that, whether it has to be approved today or not? If it does, then I'll dive in deeper publicly with the numbers that I'm looking at, but I prefer to do that privately. So,
If we could trail this, and I'm sorry, I'm not as prepared. My assistant who worked on this is on military leave, so we can get that information to you by the end of the day.
Sounds good. Okay, do we need an action to trail it? Okay, sounds good. So we'll move on to administrative item number 20, excuse me.
Chair Capps and members of the board, administrative item number 20 is from the Human Resources Department. It is to consider recommendations regarding management classification and compensation refinement.
And Supervisor Lee.
Yeah, I just want to say I understand how we got here, but I believe that if someone makes the agreement to come to work on certain terms, we should live up to it. People make life decisions based on terms that are presented to them, so I'm be voting no on this item. If we do a roll call, if
Yeah, I'll make a motion to move staff recommendation.
I'll second.
Okay, let's do, unless there's any other questions or comments? Okay.
Supervisor Lavanino. Supervisor Hartman.
Aye.
Supervisor Nelson. Supervisor Lee.
No.
And Chair Capps.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-1.
Okay. Let's move to the next one, which is A21.
Chair Capps and members of the board, administrative item number 21 is from the Human Resources Department. It is to consider recommendations regarding the Employee Benefit Insurance Program renewals for calendar year 2026, and there is a 4/5 vote required on this item.
Okay, that is Supervisor Nelson.
Yes, thank you, Chair Capps. Director Schmidt, I was going to ask you to come forward for a moment. This is the approval of our health rates, health insurance, and the rest of the public may not be interested, but I know a lot of our employees are. And, health insurance is really expensive in the county for our employees, and I know that you guys are working on that. And I thought it was an opportunity because I've been asking questions behind the scenes on that. And I know not necessarily with this contract, but you have some things in this year's budget that you're going to be doing to look at our numbers and are there better options that are a benefit to both the taxpayer and to our county employees. So if you could share that, I think that would be helpful for us on the dais as well as those that are watching to know what Human Resources is doing on that front.
Certainly, Madam Chair and Supervisor Nelson. The item that we have in our work program for the year is to conduct a comprehensive benefit analysis, hiring a consultant to perform an in-depth analysis of our benefits program under Prism Health and assess its effectiveness and cost efficiency and competitiveness and identify opportunities for improvement. And that may include looking at the CalPERS health program. It may include looking at self-insurance, and it may include other sort of independent, fully insured options. We don't have any reason to, Prism Health was selected years ago in order to leverage the employee pool through, the employer pool through Prism to achieve cost efficiencies for our program and a good benefits package at a good rate. And we have no reason to think that's not the case, but just for due diligence and because healthcare across employers in our county, but certainly for us, is sort of a very high dollar item, and the increases just every year are significant. We think for our due diligence, we're going to do that program. We're also looking at plan design changes with our labor organizations, and we will continue to talk about cost savings that might result from that, and then to engage with our labor groups who all have to agree with that on how we might use those cost savings to defray the cost increases to the county and to employees.
Okay, well, thank you. I think that, I hear from my own staff, and I know other county employees that are always concerned about the cost of health insurance, and I also know it's an issue on how competitive we are on hiring people in this county. That I think a lot of people will come and our salaries are often competitive, but then they look at the benefits and they realize that they can't afford not only the housing here, but then the lack of insurance benefits. That all comes at a cost. And, we don't have a lot of extra dollars right now for that type of thing, but what we can do is we can go out to bid. I think we should be an attractive client for insurance services, and I think we need to make sure that we're doing everything we can to go out on the open market and try to get the best price possible for our employees so we can get them the greatest amount of services. So thank you, Christy. Appreciate that work, and I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve this item.
Okay, we got a motion. Do we have a second? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, I think that brings us to the end.
One more.
We have one more. That's right.
A22.
A22, excuse me.
Chair Capps and members of the board, administrative item number 22 is from the Human Resources Department. It is to consider recommendations regarding building and safety classification and compensation changes.
Supervisor Nelson.
Yes, I pulled this item in part to vote for roll call vote on this one. I voted against this when we discussed this in closed session on whether we were going to do the redesign some of these classifications and the corresponding increases. So I wanted to be consistent and also vote publicly for that. My concerns are, I think that we have issues in that department that are more than just, or at least with the building and safety side on getting projects through. And pay may be a piece of it, but I like to see some other changes there before I could support paying more for the product that we're getting right now there. So it's something that I've been very vocal that I'm concerned about as far as getting things through the process in Santa Barbara County. It is a problem that we need to continue to highlight. I didn't believe that paying more for those services solves that. And I know that there are some other issues out there that the management's trying to solve, but I wasn't at this point ready to single them out and approve that. So I'm asking for a roll call vote here.
Okay, other questions or comments? Supervisor Lavanino.
I'll move staff recommendation.
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor? Let's do a roll call vote, excuse me.
Supervisor Lavanino.
Aye.
Supervisor Hartman.
Aye.
Supervisor Nelson.
No.
Supervisor Lee.
Aye.
And Chair Capps.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-1.
Okay. Yeah, we have one. Did I hear correctly? Did we have one that was pulled by the public or no?
No, that we do not have any polled by the public.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair Capps.
So, but we do have public comment. So that's what I was thinking about. Let's move, when you're ready, to public comment. I believe we have about 8 requests to speak.
Chair Capps and members of the board, that is correct. We have 8 requests to speak in general public comment. We are going to begin on Zoom with Lee Chang, to be followed by Judy Stowe. Lee?
Hello. Hi, Chair Capps, members of the Board of Supervisors, members of the public. I would like to thank you for giving me a brief moment of your time. My name is Leah, and I'm a third-year college student at Westmont. I am a political science and psychology double major, and this semester I'm beginning a new fellowship intern program with Kingdom Causes as a government lane fellow. Our goal this year and for the next few years is to create a 3-year action plan to end child sex exploitation in Santa Barbara. A vital part of this process is to gain insight from local government officials, which would include the Board of Supervisors. Earlier this morning, I sent out emails to you all, hoping to find a time for an interview. Your experience and insight is crucial to our action plan, and we really have a heart for the children who are being exploited, and we want to make sure that our 3-year action plan is going to be as effective and efficient as possible. So yeah, I look forward to hearing back from you guys, and thank you for your time.
We will now go to Judy Stowe. Then we will return to Santa Barbara with Kelly Mendesh. Judy?
Hi, my name is Judy Stowe, and I live at 546 Mills Way in Goleta. I'm a long-term resident of the city of Goleta, even before we were a city. I am raising concerns about the noise that's going on at the Cove. I am kept awake at night. I'm not getting my sleep. And at a 76-year-old, I'm needing my rest. I need the city to take action to control what's going on with the noise ordinances, with screaming, loud noise going on, loud music, unruly behavior in the Cove. So please, please, please hear my concern. I appreciate you. Thank you.
We will now return to Santa Barbara with Kelly Mendesh, to be followed by Brandy Thomas. Kelly?
Good morning, members of the board. My name is Kelly Mendesh, and I too am a resident of Goleta. I am here today to discuss the new Cove student housing, which is part of unincorporated Santa Barbara County, and it borders the North Campus open space. I am speaking on behalf of myself and my neighbors in the Fairways condos. We live directly across the Devereaux Slough from the Cove. From the first night that the students moved in, we have been stunned by the noise coming from the residents of the Cove. Do you know how loud partying adolescents can get? We do. We know now. It's deeply impacted our sleep and our peace. Our formal and informal appeals to the Cove management have been met with the attitude that tenants have a right to enjoy their new homes and that we need to get used to it. I lived here when Sierra Madre Village student housing was built by UCSB. It was close, and we were worried that it would be loud, but those students have been lovely, quiet neighbors year after year. We've never had a single complaint. But the Cardinal Group chose to build upscale student housing even closer to our quiet neighborhood and then marketed it for its proximity to Isla Vista and its sociability. And now that we are demanding that they enforce certain courtesies from their tenants, they are unwilling to take any actions. They encourage us to call the sheriff to enforce noise ordinances. We have done that, but it doesn't sit right with us. What an unsustainable waste of law enforcement resources. We are begging you as our Board of Supervisors to demand that the Cove management at the very least enforce current noise ordinances with their tenants, with clauses in the lease that contain real consequences for noise infractions. And it isn't just the human residents that are being impacted by the noise and light coming from the Cove. The North County Open Space Nature Preserve is home to so many wonderful birds, mammals, and reptiles. We want to be stewards of this special place, to provide an environment that encourages endangered species such as the snowy plover to nest and mate. I don't think it's a huge leap to make that if the noise, the commotion, the light, the litter bother us, they are bothering the wildlife as well, but the wildlife cannot speak up. The units are built. We understand they aren't going away. But as citizens, we ask that the business who stands to profit handsomely from these homes be held responsible for the nuisance that they have created. We have many possible solutions, and we look forward to working with you to continue the conversation. Thank you.
We will now go to Byrony Thomas, to be followed by Sierra Leverett. Byrony?
Chair Capps and other board members, I just want to thank you so much for the work that you have been doing and the decisions you've made that help protect those who are vulnerable to exploitation in the county. My name is Byrony Thomas, and I work as the Interfaith Collaborative Leader as a part of the Human Trafficking Task Force for the county. And it was fitting that you had the resolution honoring that interfaith initiative. And in my role, I'm gathering faith community members to help fight exploitation, and we have an initiative called STAND. So I just wanted to make you aware of it, and we love acronyms. So S is see something, say something. We do education so that people know what human trafficking looks like in our county, and there's a lot of myths surrounding human trafficking, so we're trying to dispel those myths. Then we have T, which is take action. We all can't do everything, but we can all do something. So it's equipping our community members with ways that they can take steps to help fight this exploitation. Then we have A, accept responsibility. And that's something we can all do as a community for what's going on the backside of the postcard of Santa Barbara. And then N is to network and collaborate. We've been so fortunate to work with so many people doing good work that we have the District Attorney's Office, Noah's Anchorage, STESA, North County Rape Crisis Center. There are a lot of people doing really good work. And so we want to network and collaborate, and you all are a part of that, and we thank you. And then D, is designate a representative. If each faith community has somebody that's a liaison between the Interfaith Collaborative and their faith community, we can have more people doing their part to fight this. So I just ask that you continue to make decisions that help protect those vulnerable to exploitation, and I thank you for your time.
We will now go to Sierra Leverett, to be followed by Jeff Schaefer. Sierra?
Chair Capps and members of the Board of Supervisors, I'm a senior at Westmont College, majoring in political science. 2 years ago, I had the opportunity to go to Ecuador and work with victims of sex trafficking. So from there, human trafficking has been heavy on my heart and mind, and that's what brings me today. Like Leah mentioned, I'm currently working in a fellowship with Kingdom Causes, where we are developing a 3-year action plan to end the commercial sexual exploitation of children and youth in Santa Barbara, or CSECI. We aim to address the urgent issue in our city by collaborating with key government agencies, businesses, and nonprofits in order to collect data and engage with efforts already being done and determine what action steps need to be taken in the future. This is an ongoing process that we would love your support and for you to be closely involved with. My fellow partner, Leah, sent out emails like she mentioned this morning, so we would love to set up interviews with you and hear directly about your insight concerning the child exploitation and how to address that. And someone from my team will be here each month to keep you updated and further ask for your support and how you can support us moving forward. We can't do this without you, and we know you want to protect our children just like we do. I thank you guys for your hard work and for your time, and look forward to being in contact with you in the future. Thank you.
We will now go to Jeff Schaefer to be followed by Violet Grace. Jeff?
Good morning. Chair Capps, members of the Board of Supervisors, good to see you all. My name is Jeff Schaefer. I'm with Kingdom Causes. I'm here to represent the population. You've heard from my other speakers. Our kids, our local kids that are at risk of or who are currently being sexually exploited. And so many of you know that I've worked within the homeless arena for a few years. And when I started working in that arena, there was no professional case management. There was no coordinated entry system. There was no vulnerability index, the way of getting the most vulnerable into housing with the correct services at the beginning. But over 15, 20 years, that's all been developed, and it's not perfect. That system's not perfect, but it's working. There are gaps in it, but at least if you're experiencing homelessness in any one of our regions right now, you can probably find a case manager. When it comes for some of our children that are being exploited, there are a lot of amazing agencies that are doing amazing work across the county, but I can say clearly that there is not a single point of contact case manager for our kids. And for me, as I look at systems, and I began to understand that being a part of the Human Trafficking Task Force is something that I felt pretty strongly needed to be fixed, which is why we've designed this 3-year action plan. So usually when trying to tackle a major issue, I think in 3 years, because I think that we have to start something, we have to prove it, we have to capture data, we have to have transparency and accountability. That's one of the reasons why we will be coming here every month to represent what we're trying to achieve, and we hope to have your involvement. I can give you some data just based from Noah's Anchorage, and so a lot of you know who Noah's Anchorage is. They have a youth shelter. They also do youth outreach. A lot of the kids that are across the county are coming to Noah's Anchorage right now. So what we're talking about is helping kids across the county. But they have 71 individuals in 2025 in which they did a first responder ID tool, which means that they suspected that these kids were at risk of being sexually exploited. 14 were at high risk, 24 at medium risk, with 19 suspected child abuse reports being done. So I think the data itself, and that's only who we know about. So the data in itself kind of expresses that this is something we need to look at and do something about. So this strategic plan, as you've seen, I've learned a lot over the years, and I'm trying to involve everyone from business community, from business leaders, faith community leaders. We've got high school students, we've got college students, we've got nonprofits. We're going to create a 3-year action plan in Santa Barbara City that we hope to replicate. So please respond to the emails for these interviews as soon as you get them. That would be really important for us to get your insight, get your involvement, and get your partnership. And for members of the community, if you want to learn more, you can go to www.safesbc.org, or my email is jeff.schaefer@kingdomcauses.org as well. Thank you for your time.
We will now go to Violet Grace to be followed by Karen Howenstein, who is our final speaker. Violet?
Good morning, Chair Capps and Supervisors. My name is Violet Sophia Grace Howenstein. I live in Lompoc Valley. I'm here today because of a conflict you have allowed to develop in our schools here in Santa Barbara County. Right now, I am anxious and afraid to perform my physical education class at Vanderburg Middle School. There is a problem with allowing boys to be Pacific, humans with XY chromosomes, into the girls' locker room at our school. While I was changing my clothes, I was noticed by 3 students. One of them is a boy who identifies as a female. He is not a female. He does not have XX chromosomes. It is a fact that boys having XXY XY chromosomes often behave more aggressively than females. This boy body shamed me and started a conflict with me in the locker room. This embarrassed me publicly and personally. My other female peers witnessed this, and they were visibly uncomfortable, and so was I. Now I feel like girls are being watched and humiliated by a boy when we are undressed. This is a violation of my personal and civil rights. We are not in a public place. We are changing our clothes. Why is this being allowed at all? It hurts me and other female peers. I want to know what this Board of Supervisors is going to do about the fact I am anxious and afraid. It seems like you don't care about my privacy. What about my self-esteem and my body image? I'm not trying to be political or rude to him and you guys, but this really needs to go back to the way it used to be. I feel like I'm not being protected by my rights. I feel like there's no rules. Thank you for your time and consideration.
And we will now go to our final speaker, Karen Howenstein.
Good morning, Chair Capps and Supervisors. It's unfortunate that my daughter had to make that statement that she wrote herself after her experiences. I am here today speaking about the fact this county has been housing male inmates who identify as female inside our jails with biological female inmates. These individuals with penises are showering in full view of female inmates. And this is just sick. There are so few of these trans or transitioning or conveniently protected, confused individuals. I would like to know from Bill Brown himself why they cannot be housed individually. I have interviewed several women who were housed with trans people who have penises. They report that they feel sickened and ashamed of the entire experience. When you hold women captive and force them to view penises they do not want to see, isn't that sexual abuse? I do not care about the fact a liberal majority pushed through illegal laws in our state to push their strange agendas. I care about our rights. For the same reason a man has the right to say he wants to look like a female, women have the right not to look at naked penises in jail. Stop being corrupt to allow this hypocrisy. Is the custody staff laughing at the disgust and frustration shown by the females in custody who have to witness this issue? Or are they similarly disgusted? Please instruct Bill Brown to disallow the opportunity for men to expose themselves to female inmates in custody. It is sexual abuse. We need to stop being abusive. Okay, on the flip side, if I want to claim I identify as a man, is Bill Brown gonna throw me into a jail pod with a bunch of men? You think that's gonna happen? Then why is this happening to the female inmate population? I feel that we're just abusing them more. Should identified abuse be tolerated at all? To continue shaming female inmates this way is certainly wolf pack mentality and behavior. Be sure to go to Coast Audits on YouTube. If you know of similar abuse, please report it. Thank you.
And that concludes general public comment for today.
Okay, thank you for everybody. Supervisor Hartman?
Well, just in public comment, I wanted to acknowledge that we had a wonderful event on Sunday with the Animal Care Foundation and celebrating our county health 100th anniversary. And this was in benefit of our shelters and animals. And three of our supervisors were there and our CEO. And it was a sold-out event, and it was really, really great.
A lot of fun.
And thank you to Lee Heller, who really took the helm in organizing it.
Excellent.
Madam Chair.
Supervisor Labanino.
Yeah, just for the public that's watching, I think it's important to point out that we don't control the schools. You're a former school board member, and if you could kind of, I think it's, this is something that would have been better off, and I think we all know that at a school board meeting to address that. We have no jurisdiction over the school system, so first I ever heard of it, and there's nothing actually we can do about it. So.
And we can't operate the jail either.
That's true. Okay, with that, we will take a short break and we'll head back in about 10 minutes, 10, 12 minutes for departmental item number 1. Thanks. Okay, we are back, and we'll move to our first departmental item number 1, which is the fourth quarter budget status update.
Yes, Chair Capps and members of the board, departmental item number 1 is from the County Executive Office. It is a hearing to consider recommendations regarding fiscal year 2024 through 2025 fourth quarter budget status report.
Thank you, Chair Capps, members of the board. I'm Paul Clementi, your budget director. Today, I'll be updating your board on how the county ended fiscal year 24-25 compared to the adjusted budget. If I can get the slides to move. There we go. As a reminder, we look at how each department in the general fund ended the fiscal year, and if they had a variance of $300,000 or more, positive or negative, as compared to their budget, we include an explanation in the report. Special revenue funds are required to end the year balanced, so they don't typically have any reportable variances in this report, although we do discuss the social services year-end issues on an upcoming slide. The general fund ended with a positive variance of $14.7 million, driven mostly by general revenues at $16.2 million, and a handful of other departments with positive balances, partially offset by sheriff and public defender, ending negative at $4.4 million and around $400,000 respectively. I'll touch on each of these departments in the coming slides. General revenues is the department where the general fund's discretionary revenue is recorded and includes property taxes, transient occupancy tax, sales tax, and more. It ended this fiscal year with a $16.2 million surplus, or about 4% of budget. The surplus was driven mostly by property taxes, TOT tax, and interest income coming in higher than budgeted. Assessed value growth came in at 5.5% on an assumed 3.75% in 24-25, and tax fines, forfeitures, and penalties came in higher than anticipated as well, contributing to the $6.4 million surplus in that line. TOT came in $4.5 million more than budget this year due to both strong year-over-year growth as well as the increase of the tax rate halfway through the fiscal year from 12 to 14%. And interest income continues to outperform projections, coming in $3.5 million higher than the $6.5 million budgeted due to the higher rate environment. We do continue to watch interest closely, however, as just a few years ago, it was only bringing in between $1 and $2 million annually, sometimes less, so it's been pretty volatile over time and can change quickly. Cannabis tax revenues came in about $900,000 under budget, for a total of $5.2 million on a budget of $6.1 million, consistent with the quarterly projections we've been providing all year. The shortfall was mostly due to operator attrition, with less licensed cultivators than the prior year. The shortfall was covered with prudent reserves and does not impact the overall general reserve or general revenues positive variance. We had 3 operating departments that ended with positive reportable variances, including probation at $1.5 million, CEO at $650,000, and general services around $500,000. The probation and CEO variances were mostly driven by salary savings, and general services savings were in large part driven by less spending than anticipated on maintenance and janitorial services. The sheriff's negative $4.4 million deficit, 2% of their adopted budget, as discussed at the July 15th hearing, was driven mostly by overtime costs that were not offset by salary savings, as often happened in prior years, due to greater success during the fiscal year filling positions in 24-25. This deficit was what remained after releasing the full $2 million Proposition 172 set-aside held in general county programs, as well as $3.5 million in additional general fund dollars that were used to cover the 24-25 impacts of the jail medical contract increases and the DSA side letter increases that were approved last year. The size of this deficit came as something of a surprise at year end because there was about $3.3 million in budgeted grant and other revenues that weren't received during the year because eligible expenses weren't incurred in the programs funded by those revenues. Because most of those revenues were appropriated into the salaries and benefits object level, and our budget is controlled at the department object level, it masked overspending of salaries and benefits in other programs. At year end, when it became clear those external revenues weren't going to materialize, the size of the problem became clear. One of the recommended monitoring practices that we'll be implementing with the sheriff going forward is to include in our quarterly operational review meetings with them specific tracking and estimates of the expenditures related to outside revenue sources such as grants to better identify issues earlier in the year. Other recommendations include conducting a custody deputy new hire cost analysis to get a better idea of the costs and practices driving those costs for onboarding and training new custody deputies in order to better estimate costs in future years. Rebudgeting more realistic salary savings and overtime amounts, which will facilitate better transparency and budget monitoring throughout the year. And conducting a review of overtime coding practices in the department, which we have already referred to the Auditor Controller's Office and is underway now. We believe these recommended measures will help with our monitoring and reporting and catch large issues earlier in the year, but ultimately it is still incumbent on the Sheriff's Department to manage costs within their adopted budget. The Public Defender ended the year with a deficit of $431,000, just under 2% of their budget. Like the Sheriff's Department, their issue was driven by higher than budgeted salary and benefit expenditures in certain programs that were masked at the department-wide level by unspent appropriations related to budgeted grants that ended up being delayed. Similar to the Sheriff, we'll be asking the department to regularly monitor and report to our office on expenditures against outside revenues like grants and bring budget revisions as necessary if it becomes known that certain revenues won't be received in the current year to help remove the masking issue. Finally, as reported on July 15th, Social Services ended with a $1.58 million deficit. They closed the fiscal year balanced by depleting much of their remaining fund balance, as well as using some of the $3.4 million one-time general fund monies that had been allocated in the current 25-26 budget. While this helped them close last fiscal year, the use of these monies, which had been planned for use in fiscal year 25-26, further exacerbates the budget issues they were already anticipating this fiscal year and is part of what they will be addressing when they come to your board on October 7th with proposed measures to balance their current year budget. As of quarter 4, 513 of the county's 4,767 adopted funded positions were vacant, an 11% vacancy rate. This is similar to the vacancy rate for most quarters during the fiscal year. The departments with the highest rates of funded vacancies include the County Executive Office at 22%, the Clerk Recorder Assessor's Office at 17%, and Behavioral Wellness at 17%. Both CEO and the Clerk Recorder Assessor are holding some of their positions intentionally vacant due to future budget uncertainties, such as in the case of the Recorder, a continued decrease in recording volume. Departments with the lowest rates, 6 to 7%, include County Counsel, Public Defender, Treasurer, Tax Collector, and Fire. Unused funds due to vacancies return to the general fund or the associated funding source at the end of the fiscal year unless authorization is given otherwise. As part of budget strategies to address projected future year deficits, CEO staff will continue scrutinizing vacant positions and consider eliminating or freezing certain positions to balance upcoming budgets. We do typically end the year with some savings in the general fund, which is often the source we use to fund capital projects or other one-time priorities in the upcoming budget year. In this case, we are recommending that the $14.7 million in savings from fiscal year 24-25 be put towards the construction costs of the Northern Branch Jail expansion. We continue to look at every balance we have to help identify cash on hand that we can put towards construction and reduce the amount that we will need to borrow through debt issuance. The less we have to borrow, the lower the ongoing debt service costs. As we've discussed previously with your board, it's estimated that every $14 million will reduce ongoing debt service by $1 million. We will further discuss the larger fiscal outlook and strategies to address it in a few months when we bring our 5-year forecast. Here we have the recommended actions: to receive and file the fourth quarter report and make the CEQA determination that this fiscal report is not a project. Thank you.
Thank you to our budget director and the team. Supervisor Hartman.
With regard to the sheriff's, the corrective actions, I guess I'll term them, to review the overtime coding practices through the auditor, Wasn't that a KPMG recommendation? I seem to remember that there were difficulties in tracking the activities and a recommendation to do that. So how is this going to be different, and what do we know, what do we hope and expect?
Supervisors, I don't have the KPMG recommendations in front of me, but one of the recommendations was, how can you tie overtime better to actual activity so that we could track it? And we always know it's because of the same things we've talked about, when they're understaffed, when they have people coming on newly in the training, et cetera. But what your board has asked to do for many years, and we've tried, and Nancy Anderson tried, I think, as well, is working with the sheriff's office so that we could get a clearer picture of it. I think that's still difficult at times. But the issue recently is because the overtime costs were so large, much larger than what we would have expected, we've asked the auditor to do a review of their payroll, the accounting, and we hadn't done that before, to go specifically to look at time cards to see, help piece together what some of the issues were, if there are MOU changes that have to be made, if there was just practices that have to change. And I asked the auditor, here is, I don't see Ed. I asked, okay, if he could be here to tell us about the progress of that audit. But I think the difference this time is we have involved the auditor to help look more specifically and more in detailed way to help us unearth what other changes may be appropriate.
I mean, as you noted, this is an ongoing issue that we can't quite seem to get our arms around, and I'm glad we have a new strategy, but I think it's important to hear from the sheriff or the sheriff's department about their views on this and what they need to, to make this more transparent for all of us.
I had a question about overtime. Are you also asking that? Well, okay, I just want to make sure I understand the question, the numbers, because I know in June we approved, kind of to use Supervisor Lavigno's phrase, over a barrel, an additional 5.9 million for overtime for the Sheriff's Department. Is this 4.4 in addition to that, or absorbed by that? See my question, Mr. Clemente?
Chair Capps, if 4.2. You're talking about the July 15th, that sort of right at fiscal year end action that we approved. This is not on top of that. That budget revision that you approved.
Thank you.
That budget revision you approved at that time gave us the appropriations they needed to be able to continue the fiscal year and close.
Okay.
We didn't transfer some of that revenue over because it was coming from general county programs. We held it there, but it let them end the year with this negative 4.2. So it's not on top of that. The action you took allowed them to close the fiscal year.
Okay, so we're still talking about the same challenge, which is not tracking overtime properly.
Correct.
But it's somewhere in the ballpark of $4 to $5 million challenge.
So they went 4.2 million over budget overall. Their overtime budget, I don't have that number, is quite a bit over their budgeted overtime.
Yes.
To the tune of, I want to say $15 million over their overtime budget. A lot of their salary savings from vacancies covers that. But this year they ended up with a pretty big negative still, even after salary savings.
Okay. So, yeah, CEO Miyasato.
I know that the Assistant Auditor Controller is on his way here, but I didn't realize Hope was here. Sorry, Hope. If you're here as well, but the CFO from the Sheriff's Office, Hope Vasquez, is here if you have questions.
If anyone would like to speak to this, that would be great. Thank you.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
I'm trying to understand the discrepancy between sort of the action that was taken in July versus this discrepancy, but maybe.
No, that's Hope's question. Hers about the audits.
Just about the audits. I think that was the question that Supervisor Hartman.
Unfortunately, I don't know the status of the audit. That would be the Auditor Controller.
But
Sorry, Ed.
I guess it would be helpful to know, how do we track what officers are doing, and how do we track overtime within the sheriff's office? How does that compare to other departments? Why can't we get more visibility and clarity about this? Because it continues to be an issue year after year.
Supervisor Hartman through the chair. So the larger issue is the fact that we do have the structural staffing deficit. We have positions that are posts that have to be filled 24/7. And if we don't have the body, then we have to place an overtime body in that place. We do not have enough staffing to have a relief factor in our jails or in our patrol section. So that's the underlying problem with the overtime, is that if we don't have enough people to cover relief factor, then we are going to have to pull people in overtime. You can't have 4.4 bodies for a 24/7 post.
Yeah. This board has spent a lot of money to recruit new custody deputies.
And that's actually part of the problem, unfortunately, is that we had a lot of unproductive assets last year, which are people who are on our books that we are paying for that are either in training or in the academy. So while they are in those positions, we are paying for them like they were a regular position. However, unfortunately, they're an unproductive asset and cannot fill a post position. So until they become a productive asset, which I was just having this conversation with Katrina, as soon as they become a productive asset, that we will see that drop in overtime. We had the same thing happen in the past when we had a hiring freeze back in, I think it was 07, 08, where we got hit a couple years later with this same type of thing where we had a lot of overtime due to the unproductive assets that we had, where we were hiring a lot of people. We just unfortunately did not have productive assets to.
I appreciate the big picture. I think what we're talking about here is drilling down to how things are actually coded and accounted for. And I think we're asking for improvements, and I think those improvements have been requested, again, by previous audits by KPMG. So maybe we need to hear from the auditor, and that would help shine more light on this.
Hi, I'm Ed Price, Assistant Auditor Controller. I'm sorry I'm a little late to the party on this one. We have an audit in process to look at the data. I just was talking to my audit manager on the way up here. We've got the data in, now just starting to do the analysis on it. But to your point is to see what the coding structures are doing, what they're actually telling us, and we're trying to get some benchmarks to see what we can actually learn out of the data. And I think going forward, there might be some opportunities in coding structures, changes perhaps that the sheriffs might be able to put in to help us track a little bit more what's really causing all these great variances and discrepancies.
And if I may, how do you establish benchmarks?
We'll go back and probably look at other entities to see how they're coding their time and how they're also processing, and to see what averages are and so forth in their local jurisdictions surrounding us.
So other law enforcement, apples to apples.
Try. My
Although
experience is
custody,
it's not always
yeah.
that easy, and it's a little bit like apples and oranges at times, but we'll try our best to see if we can find some other comparables out there to give us at least a sense that we're in the right ballpark or not.
And how long do you think this will take?
It'll probably be another couple weeks before we get to that point. We just got the data. I think we got the last piece in yesterday, and so they're now just starting to do the analysis work today.
And if I may ask the CEO, how will the board learn of this? Will it come as an A or D item, or?
It's at your request, what your preference would be right now. It was just an internal review by the auditor, and it's really what you'd like to see.
I personally, again, because this is an ongoing issue, would like to understand it in more detail. So I would like to have it come back to the board, although that isn't typical. In this case, I think it's merited.
Yeah, I agree. I just think that we're looking for a sense of urgency to curtail an ongoing issue if it's related to the auditing and coding. Certainly, we understand we've devoted a lot of funds towards the understaffing issue. We certainly don't need to be convinced that that's been a challenge for many societal and other issues, underlying issues, but if there's also some technical ones that can be resolved, I just would like to hear a sense of urgency around the direction to fix that. We do have Under Sheriff Bonner, who's been wanting to speak. He's joining us by Zoom.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I can't turn on my, it looks like my video's turned off, but I am available via video if it's turned on.
Thanks for being here by video.
Yeah, so I just want to clarify, there are, as was pointed out, your board and CEO's office have worked with us to incentivize hiring, and it was incredibly successful. To the point, we hired almost 100 sworn deputies during the last fiscal year. And as CFO Vasquez pointed out, that is a double-edged sword. It's just we have occasionally, and this was one of them, experienced where it was to that point that it not only erased the salary savings, but far exceeded it, right? You have 100 people who for almost a year were unproductive assets. What that means is we're paying them to train, but we're also paying another deputy on overtime to do the work that that asset would hopefully eventually do. Last year was one of those years that essentially you can't correct it. There's no way to correct that piece of it, that you have that many people in training and that you're having to backfill that many people. On the positive, those people are coming off of training, and our hard vacancy rates are as low as they have ever been. So there is a light at the end of the tunnel as it relates to that. Specific to the challenge of time card coding, we utilize the same time card system that everyone, including your teams, do within the county system, and that is fine for telling you that we are having somebody come in to maintain minimum safe staffing in the jail or on patrol, right? These are the staffing levels that are necessary to ensure community safety, deputy safety, inmate safety, and compliance with applicable laws, including the Murray Settlement. What it doesn't, the system doesn't allow reasonably, is to tell you whether or not that overtime was caused because somebody was in training, because they called in sick, or they were on vacation or out on military leave. That's the challenge of, we've been working with the CEO's office trying to drill that down. And we can do it. Our CFO Vasquez has done a great job of showing what are the drivers of that overtime. But it's not direct. It's more of an indirect, right? We're taking totalities of information, putting it together and showing what is causing that overtime. What I think we all want to be able to say is, okay, when Craig Bonner worked a piece of overtime, why? What caused him to work that overtime on that day? What I can tell you through the time card coding, the existing system, is that it was to maintain minimum safe staffing levels, either again on patrol or in the jail. I just can't tell you through the existing system if that was caused by a person that was in training, on vacation, military leave, FMLA, so on. So that's what we've been working on, trying to be able to provide to the CEO's office, budget team, et cetera. I will tell you that we have made a lot of progress. We've worked with the DSA to refine MOU language that was causing overtime. Again, we both came together, found that it was in the best interest of both the budget, but also their employees, minimizing the amount of mandatory overtime that they're having to work. And this is something that we continue to do, meeting with them, trying to drive down that overtime. We're looking at and have been looking at scheduling, anything at all that is a driver of overtime and trying to bring it under control. And again, we are continuing to work with CEO's office, with the auditor, and with your board. We all want to drive this down. We want our team members to have to work less overtime. But at the same point in time, we're having to do all of that in balance with ensuring community safety, deputy safety, and the safety of folks that are in our care and custody. Thank you.
Thank you, Under Sheriff. I just wanted to make sure because you let me go before you. So Supervisor Nelson, did you have? Supervisor Hartman?
I do, but I think Supervisor Hartman, did you want to?
I just had a quick question. Is the audit for custody and law enforcement or just custody that the auditor is doing?
My understanding is what we're looking at right now was for custody, but we can expand it if you'd like to everything. Seems like that would be appropriate at this point because it sounds like there might be some filling going across both sides of that spectrum there. So we'll do that. That'll add a little bit more time probably into the project, but I think it's well spent under this circumstance.
Great. Supervisor Nelson.
Yes, thank you, Chair Capps. Something that's kind of attached here on the overtime is, and I think it's maybe comes out through the audit, but it's how people combined their vacation time with their work time, and is that what becomes the overtime at that point? And I think that that's something I don't want to single out the Sheriff's Department. This could be happening throughout our organization, and that's why actually I hope the Auditor's Office looks at that, not just in public safety, but all of our offices that might have any overtime, that how that's done, because it seems that the system that's in place right now allows somebody to use overtime to fill up their schedule and then work and that get overtime. So it actually increases the amount that would potentially, we're paying somebody when it really should be that they should work first and then they should top up with overtime would be my assumption. But it seems like, and I don't want to call it an abuse if that's a common practice, but it does seem like that's something that needs to be curtailed, especially as we look at high overtime costs. Maybe back in the day when that was once in a while type of thing, but we have a huge cost, huge overruns. And if that's something that we can do to tighten that up, I think that could go a long way in all of our departments, not just public safety. So hopefully that you guys are looking at that is what I'm
Supervisor
looking for.
Nelson through the chair. We are looking at that. Some of it I think might be MOU specific issues that we're addressing. We'll have to look at that. But different opportunities to see how the organization at large, we'll start with Sheriff, we'll look at the other units as well, how one may be using overtime, fill in for taking vacation, sick, other things like that, holidays. But I think all that's part of this analysis we're trying to do to see if there's opportunities to clean that up, if you will. And make sure everyone's playing by kind of the right rule set from there.
Thank you.
Tsuyo Miyasato.
I just do want to confirm what's under Sheriff Bonner said, that he's right. Our existing system is difficult then for us to track specifically why the overtime occurred. And as Supervisor Nelson did they actually work the overtime, or was it because of the way we're coding the card, because what the MOU allows? So I want to thank the Sheriff's Office for trying to do their best, and we encourage them to continue even with the system that we have. But I also want to clarify that we've asked the auditor to look at this year rather than having this look in the past, because we understood overtime occurs and they need constant staffing. But as the board letter says, sheriff employees coding over 1,000 overtime hours in a single fiscal year jumped from 8 employees in 2019-20 to 55 in 24-25. One employee coded 2,334 hours of overtime in the last fiscal year. Overall overtime hours coded per employee increased 74% from an average of 258 in 2019-20 to 448 in 24 and 25. And while some of this can be attributed to overtime needed while new deputies are in training and not fully utilized, further analysis is needed, and hence that's why we asked the auditor this year to look at this.
Supervisor Nelson.
Did I maybe I missed that? Was that in the board letter? Is that you reading from that?
Yes, it's in the board letter. It's on page 5.
Okay. So you said that there was actually an employee that, and I guess I just overlooked it, that did over 2,000 hours of overtime?
Yes.
Okay. I think that's troubling, and so it needs oversight, because I think those are the outliers that we need to look at and go, what's happening there? Because maybe there might be great explanation, but I think that that's something that is, it's working. 2,000 hours is typically normal, so they work 2,000, then another 2,000, and another 500. That's hard to imagine. Either this person is our employee of the year, or we need to take a deeper look. So,
or Superman.
And that's why I also want to be careful here, because again, especially that's why I didn't want to single out just the Sheriff's Department, because a lot of these people are putting their lives on the line for our community, and I don't want to make it sound like somebody's doing something wrong. I just think we just need to look at it, and that's where the auditor comes involved, to actually take a really clear, unbiased look at the numbers, because again, many of these people are doing heroic work, and I don't want to disparage them, but at the same time, we need to get our arms around the costs.
Other questions, comments? Well, I did just have a general comment, because I'm not sure if it's clear necessarily to the public. As we move into a different season, I was fortunate to start on this board when things were a little more flush, and we actually had excess, not too much, but, and now we're moving into a much different scenario. And so I just wanted to kind of get your take, Mr. Clementi, and when there are deficits like this in one department or two departments, what happens to the others? How do we prepare? What kind of goes through your planning? And what should we be thinking about as a board when we get reports like this? What is the impact on the other departments?
Chair Capps. So in this situation, when it's general fund departments like this, and we have at the general fund level a surplus that we ended this year with, what it's doing is it's taking, our surplus is less. It's less by $4 million-ish than it otherwise would have been had the sheriff ended with a balanced budget. And that 18 million we would have had instead of the 14 million that we've ended the year with would have gone into, likely other projects, or in this case, we probably would have been recommending the full 18 instead of the 14 into the MBJ expansion, which is going to lower the costs of the debt service we ultimately are going to have to issue for that project. As we've talked about, our overall picture is a deficit situation in the upcoming years, driven to some extent, or in large part due to that debt service we're going to have to pay. So when you look at it holistically, it is forcing us to find more money in other places for that ongoing debt service than we would otherwise need to when a department ends this much to the negative in the general fund. So the impact on other departments are likely going to be some more belt tightening than otherwise would have been needed in the future.
Okay, thanks for spelling it out. Thanks for the sobering information. Any other questions? Or I guess we should ask Supervisor Hartman?
I was ready to make a motion, but I guess we have public comment first.
Yeah, thank you. Madam Clerk, are there any comments from the public on
Chair
this?
Capps and members of the board, we have no requests to speak from the public on this item.
Okay. Then Supervisor Hartman, I'll take your motion.
Yes, so I would move A and B in today's board letter staff recommendation with direction that the auditor look at both custody and law enforcement, and that it come back to the board either as an A or D item in the discretion of the CEO.
I can second that. All those in favor? Please
Aye.
say aye. Motion carries. Okay, great. Thank you to our budget team and to the Sheriff's Department and to our auditors. Let's move to departmental item number 2. Response to the grand jury's report on food vending. We've had a very prolific grand jury this year.
Chair Capps and members of the board, departmental item number 2 is from the County Executive Office and the County Health Department. It is a hearing to consider recommendations regarding responses to the 2024 through 2025 grand jury report on food vending.
Okay, Dr. Hamami.
Good morning, Madam Chair and Supervisors. Yes, we have the privilege of presenting our responses to the grand jury report. Today, I have with me our Deputy Director for Operations, Lars Seifert, who is going to delve into the more technical aspects of the findings and the recommendations. On June 26, 2025, the grand jury issued a report entitled Unpermitted Food Vendors in Santa Barbara County. I want to begin by thanking the grand jury for highlighting food safety as an important public health priority in our county and their recognition and awareness of the risk of foodborne illnesses that is associated with improper and unsanitary food handling. The report focuses on unpermitted food vending from push carts, food trucks, and pop-up restaurants, which have been at an unprecedented levels in the county and across the state, posing a threat to public health. These unpermitted food vendors also have an economic impact on our local permitted businesses, such as mobile food trucks and brick-and-mortar restaurants. Today, your board will consider the proposed responses to the grand jury report, which includes 4 findings and 5 recommendations. The board is required to respond within 90 days of the date of the report release, which will happen to be tomorrow, September 24th, and the letter is included in your board packet today. In terms of providing a little bit of background, the California Retail Food Code and Section 1619 of the Santa Barbara County Code specify requirements for proper storage, preparation, and handling of food sold from vendors. To demonstrate compliance with these requirements, vendors must obtain a food handler's card and a health permit from Environmental Health Services at County Health, which as you know, we refer to as EHS during this presentation. EHS conducts annual mobile food vendor inspections within the unincorporated county and incorporated cities, and more frequent inspections are conducted if a complaint has been filed by a member of the public or if a vendor has received a prior violation. Most recently, the state legislature has passed 2 sidewalk vending laws, SB 946 and SB 972, in 2018 and 2022, which also changed the portions of the California Retail Food Code. The cumulative effect of these bills decriminalized sidewalk vending and limited the ability of local jurisdictions to enforce state regulations. This has had the effect of disincentivizing street food vendors from obtaining the necessary health permits. The grand jury report highlights these and other issues that County Health faces in ensuring food safety practices are followed, including ineffective penalties for unpermitted food vendors and the difficulty of regulating vendors that frequently relocate to avoid these penalties and the impoundment of their food and items. With that, I'll hand it to Lars to walk us through the first finding.
So over the next few slides, I'll highlight each of the grand jury's reports, findings, and recommendations, and the proposed responses to each that would be provided by your board to the grand jury. Finding 1 of the report states County Health's ability to inspect mobile food vendors and enforce food safety regulations has been limited by the small number of inspection personnel currently employed in its Environmental Health Services Division. We recommend that the board agree with this grand jury finding. The recent rise in unpermitted food vending has been a staffing challenge, adding burden to our inspection team that often must respond after hours and during weekends. EHS is the enforcement agency for food safety throughout the entire county, including both incorporated and unincorporated areas, and we've based our staffing levels on the need to inspect all the permitted businesses. However, I will note to date that this has not limited our ability to address mobile food vendors when needed. EHS has been able to rely on overtime efforts to conduct inspections to ensure food safety regulations are being adequately enforced. So along with this finding, the grand jury has recommendation 1. The grand jury recommends that the board provide County Health with sufficient funding to hire additional inspectors to facilitate more frequent inspections of mobile food vendors and to enforce compliance with existing food safety laws if violations are discovered, to be implemented by July 1st, 2026. While we agree that County Health needs to routinely evaluate its ongoing level of effort for food safety compliance, we have been able to effectively use overtime hours and leverage local partnerships with city code enforcement and law enforcement to conduct more frequent inspections of mobile food vendors, which has resulted in some successes over the past 6 months. As such, County Health does not recommend hiring additional EHS staff at this time, which would not be supported by our current health permit fees. We will, however, continue to leverage local partnerships with cities and law enforcement agencies to provide targeted inspections of mobile food vendors countywide. EHS will continue to utilize overtime to conduct after-hours and weekend inspections when needed. And also notable, I just want to point out that we have also begun a partnership with the California Highway Patrol as well to discuss their involvement with food vending enforcement, and they've agreed to collaborate with us in certain areas to enforce the California Street and Highways Code as well. So EHS will continue to monitor the situation with vendors and leverage local partnerships where possible and with the state California Highway Patrol, and conduct additional enforcement where we identify hotspots for unpermitted food vending. Finding 2 of the grand jury report states that there is no established process by which the public can report unpermitted mobile food vendors to county health, thus making enforcement of food safety requirements more difficult. The county does disagree with this finding, but acknowledges that increasing public awareness and ease of reporting is essential to effective enforcement, and we appreciate the grand jury pointing this out. We do currently have well-established channels through which the public can report unpermitted food vendors. For example, EHS does provide public phone numbers, email addresses specifically for submitting complaints or concerns, including those related to mobile food vending operations. These channels are monitored regularly by staff during business hours, and complaints are tracked and promptly responded to in accordance with our public health protocols, similar to any other food safety concern or inquiry we receive from the public. For this finding, the grand jury recommendation states, the grand jury recommends that the Board of Supervisors direct County Health to establish a tip line for the public to report information about mobile food vendors who are not permitted, to be implemented by January 1st, 2026. County Health agrees, again, with the importance of improving public access to report concerns related to unpermitted street vendors, and finds that there's still some room for improvement. In response to this recommendation, County Health will establish an additional online reporting tool by January 1st, 2026, and this will also include advertising the existing EHS phone line and online reporting form to make sure that the public is aware of these reporting options. The new online reporting tool will support more timely and efficient enforcement actions by enabling the public to provide information directly from a mobile device regarding the location and operation of unpermitted street food vendors. This is always a difficult thing with unpermitted street food vendors because the locations, times change. And so having that information available to staff gives us a chance to respond to those concerns. We are currently piloting this online reporting form and should have this available to disseminate to the public in the near future. For finding 3, the grand jury found that county health efforts to conduct inspections of mobile food vendors have been negatively impacted by safety concerns for inspection personnel. Again, while the county agrees with this finding, we do have EHS inspectors that are trained public health professionals who routinely conduct physical inspections of both retail food businesses and permitted mobile food vendors out in the community as part of their normal duties. These staff members are equipped with the knowledge, protocols, and experience necessary to perform inspections safely and effectively under normal conditions. EHS has also coordinated with the CHP, the Sheriff's Office, and local law enforcement in certain areas, including the cities of Santa Barbara, Lompoc, and Santa Maria, to support staff during inspections when appropriate. While safety challenges may occasionally require enhanced support, such as law enforcement, they're not universally present, and this has not prevented the EHS team from continuing its work. County Health does remain committed to providing a safe work environment for staff and will continue to assess risks and collaborate with the appropriate agencies as needed. Associated with this finding, there are 2 recommendations. One is for the Sheriff's Office and one is for County Health. The first is directed to the Sheriff's Department, and we've collaborated with them on the response. Recommendation 3A states, the grand jury recommends that the Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Office delegate deputies to accompany county health inspectors so that the inspectors, with the support of law enforcement, can safely enforce permitting and inspecting in the unincorporated areas of Santa Barbara County and in the incorporated areas where the Sheriff's Office is contracted to provide services. This recommendation has been implemented already. The Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Office currently provides law enforcement support to EHS, and this support occurs at pre-planned inspections in the unincorporated areas of the county and also in the cities where the Sheriff's Office is contracted to provide law enforcement services. The on-duty area supervisor is also made aware of standby requests and can provide additional assistance as needed. The second part of this recommendation is similar to the first. It states that the grand jury recommends the board direct county health to partner with municipal law enforcement agencies so that health inspectors, with the support of law enforcement, can safely enforce permitting and inspecting within incorporated municipalities. This recommendation has also already been implemented. County and health inspectors routinely coordinate with city law enforcement where resources are available. In the city of Santa Barbara, for example, County Health has partnered with Santa Barbara Police Department on joint enforcement efforts in high traffic areas and after-hours operations. These partnerships are pursued on a case-by-case basis and continue to be strengthened as staffing and municipal support allow, and these are important partnerships in our enforcement of food safety laws. The fourth and final finding states food trucks and carts are often not located in proximity to restroom or hand washing facilities for staff and customers as legally required, which poses a significant public health risk. The county partially disagrees with this finding. It does pose a significant public health risk, but as far as our permitted mobile food vendors, they are required to have access to approved restroom and hand washing facilities, and unless otherwise exempted by EHS. So this is part of what we look at when they're operating procedures and to allow them to have a health permit to operate. I think the difficulty comes when it's an unpermitted vendor and they're not following many other food safety laws as well. So for this final recommendation then, the grand jury report states that the board should direct county health to focus inspection and enforcement efforts on mobile food vendors who operate without proximity to appropriate hand washing or restroom facilities. County health respectfully requests that this recommendation not be implemented. While we agree that access to restroom and hand washing are a critical component of safe food operations, EHS does prioritize enforcement efforts based on the severity of potential public health risks more broadly. Major food safety violations that we've seen include unapproved food sources, improper food storage, inadequate temperature control, or the sale of high-risk foods at unpermitted locations, and these present a greater risk of foodborne illness and remain the primary focus of our enforcement activities. That said, we do respond to all public complaints involving unpermitted food preparation and sales, including where a lack of hand washing and restroom facilities are observed or reported. And when we identify those, we take appropriate enforcement action in those instances. So directing EHS to prioritize restroom and hand washing enforcement may reduce our ability to also focus on these other food safety violations that may pose a more immediate threat to public health. I'll now turn it back to Director Hamami to go through the recommended actions for your board consideration today.
Thank you, Lars. And we recommend that your board take the recommended actions listed A, B, and C, which include adopting the responses to the grand jury report, authorizing the chair to sign the response letter, and forwarding it to the presiding judge of the Santa Barbara County Superior Court, and determining that these actions are not subject to CEQA. With that, we thank you and thank the grand jury, and we are open for questioning. I also understand that from the Sheriff's Office, we have Commander Grissini with us in case there are any questions to the Sheriff's Office.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Seifert. Questions from the board? Supervisor Lee.
So I have a question. So does the county have a policy where we discourage our employees from patronizing these unpermitted vendors?
Supervisors of the chair, we don't monitor or encourage behaviors one way or the other for employees in their off hours. So no, there's no policy like that.
There's a policy. Okay. Thank you.
Supervisor Hartman.
Well, following up a little bit on Supervisor Lee's point, I think education of the public is really important, and I think there's more the county could do, and it's not as expensive as some other things. I know that when our environmental health goes out there, it's often members of the public who are antagonizing them in their enforcement because they don't really understand the issues. So I think we need to consider more what we can do on the public education side of it. We did create a task force that has been, I think, very successful, and I'm eager to find out when it will report back to this board. But one of the big successes is working with the CHP at least in my area, 246 and 154 are really areas of tremendous abuse by these pop-up food restaurants and really unsafe. And the CHP has authority within their right-of-way that doesn't depend on the law that's been changed by the legislature. So it's a very valuable tool. I know that Ventura County has been wondering how we've gotten our CHP to be so active. So we're really grateful for that. So I guess the big point is, when is the task force coming back to report to the board? And I, at least in what you presented, didn't see any mention of that made to the grand jury, which I think is one of the reasons, again, why we can agree with so much of what they've said. So.
Supervisor Hartman, through the chair, thank you. And we have received direction from the board as part of this setting up a regional task force, and we're working with the CEO's office on timing of when we can return to the board with some of the actions. I will say, as part of that direction, there was direction to also develop some public education and messaging as well, and we're currently working with the county communications officer on trying to develop some of those outreach materials, because I do think that is important in educating the general public.
One final question, and could you talk about confiscation? I noticed that was mentioned, but not really elaborated.
Thank you, Supervisor Hartman, through the chair. Yes, one of the tools that we've been implemented with being able to partner with local law enforcement, sheriff, as well as CHP, is to have that law enforcement present there, so we can actually compel either a voluntary discord of adulterated food, or also conduct impoundment. Just over the last 6 months, with these kind of enhanced partnerships with city code enforcement, and the fact that the board has raised awareness of this issue, we've been able to do impoundment actions throughout the county, particularly in the North County area and as well as the San Ynez Valley. Just an estimate, just since February of this year, I think we've impounded over 5,000 pounds of meat and unsafe food products from unpermitted vendors. So it's a huge effort, and one that I thank your board for supporting and helping us get there with these partnerships. It has been a success in that way, and we find that, making it so they continue to, if just ceasing operations is one thing, but basically not being able to set up again, having to restock or rethink being out there is, I think, beneficial for the public and the community.
And what about equipment?
We have not impounded equipment at this point in time. That's one of the things that I think we're looking at through the task force that has been established, is to see what options are available and what resources would be needed to do equipment.
Just one final comment. I'm really grateful to the grand jury, because this is an issue that we've identified, and they validate that, and I think many of their recommendations are right in sync with what we've been learning. So right on, grand jury.
Supervisor Nelson.
Yes, thank you, Chair Capps. And I want to acknowledge that, the issue with sidewalk and street vending is more than just the public health, but you guys are one of the tools that are probably the most appropriate to deal with it, because I do think that there's a lot of other issues that are surrounding it that are a little bit harder for us to wrestle with. These pop-up businesses are using public property for their business, and they're often not only are there concerns about the food safety, but also traffic safety, customer safety, disposal of waste, and really with the unfair business practices that creates. There's so many people in our community that, buy property or have a business that they go through all of our hoops, or as many of our hoops as they can, to try to be compliant. And, that's very expensive, and it's difficult for them to look across the street and see somebody that just, flies in the face of all those things. And again, I thank environmental health for taking the lead on this. Again, it's not totally, there's other pieces of our community that kind of touch this, but we thank you guys for being the lead on it because I think you guys are getting your arms around it. We have seen it go down. I know that there's other potential issues out there in the community that might be driving some of this away. But it's also, I think, and has been highlighted by Supervisor Hartman in the past, sometimes there's some human trafficking pieces to this as well that are concerns. So there's a lot of good social reasons why our board should be really having a keen eye on addressing this, and I appreciate the work that you did, and I appreciate the work the grand jury did on this to keep it on top of mind. I think we have an item coming back to the board in the near future, and I'm committed to providing you the resources you need to be able to get your arms around this issue. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, Supervisor Nelson brought up the word resources, and I just want to make sure we speak to sort of prioritization of resources. While I know that, of course, no one is in support of bad meat or open flames or public spaces being used improperly, I do want to note that when the grand jury took this up, we were in a very different climate on our streets, and this is predominantly an immigrant issue, and there's a lot of fear out there. So I just want to make sure that we keep things in balance. And if you could speak to that, Dr. Hamami, just in terms of public health and all of the challenges, people not necessarily going to the doctor right now, immigrants using food vending for survival. I just hope that we keep perspective. I'm sure you are, but I just hope you could speak to that balance that I'm sure your department is doing. I note that the LA County has paused enforcement of food vending given ICE raids, et cetera.
Yeah, I know it's, sorry, I know it's unusual for a director to refuse any extra funding from the board. However, we don't think that this is what is needed. We certainly, this is a complex problem, as Supervisor Nelson mentioned, that has so many different entities that need to be involved in this. And also we do understand that while our focus is the safety of anything that is served to the public, and we look at it as a public health, this is truly our role in that. We definitely are not the police of economy or balancing things and all that. This is our role, and this is why we needed the task force. This is why we needed to work with our partners, ensuring that not only health safety, but public safety and adhering to proper channels are things that need to be addressed. And yes, there are so many other things that we're involved in, but yet this is also something that we keep a track on.
Okay, thank you. Supervisor Hartman.
Yeah, I appreciate your comment, and I think that is well stated. What we're learning about the pop-up restaurants is that they're largely controlled by a few operations working out of Orange County and LA, and they're very exploitive of the labor that they use. And that's why there's a concern about human trafficking. They're also competing with Latino restaurants, and they also have many Latino employees. In my area, the San Ynez Valley, one is really struggling to keep in operation because the food truck is right there. And that happens, we heard again and again in Santa Maria that happens within their city. So when we talk about balance, I think it's important that people play by the rules. And I think this is something that's being exploited, not for the benefit of the immigrant community, but the benefit of people who are taking advantage of them from a few small company, from a few a few companies with a lot of resources making a lot of money off their backs, operating out of LA and Orange County.
Okay. Madam Clerk, any members of the public that wish to speak?
Chair Capps and members of the board, we have no requests to speak from the public on this item.
Okay, with that, I can take a motion on the grand jury's report and our response.
I'll make a motion to accept the, staff recommendation with some of the direction that was given by the board that I think staff already mentioned that they're already working on.
Second?
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, I know we are prepared to go back to item A15.
Yes, let's, if we could go back to item A15, that would be helpful before we break for closed session.
Great.
There was a slide that was handed out to you. I think the clerk it was publicly posted and available. And Mr. Lagerquist, maybe you could just talk about what the slide says.
Can I speak to it just before it gets started? Because it's an issue I went back and forth with the staff. I got the information on the dais. In 30 seconds, I saw something that was an outlier, and I brought that up. I haven't had enough time to spend on the rest of the presentation. If I spend 5 minutes, I might find more. And so I don't feel comfortable moving forward with it personally. The rest of the board's fine with it, that's fine. I know that you're going to give an explanation that if you take out the outlier that I identified, it's still going to lead to the incumbent. But I don't think I have the information right now to be able to make a decision right now. So that said, I'm typically against this contract in part because I'm not completely against this contract. I do think there's some places that we need to have security services in the county. I think we've gotten a little bit too robust with it. As a general philosophy, I voted against this contract last time. I'm not a big fan of the metal detectors in the admin building. And I do think that we should have security. I think we should have a presence there. And I think our security is cheaper than having a sheriff's deputy or a police officer in some of these locations that I think are important when we have sensitive issues. I think our security contract with like Hope Village and some of our homeless services are great values to the county. So I do support some of this contract, some of I don't. I think that maybe that's something we need to look at as we look at potential cuts in the future of employees on whether that's still valuable or not. I know that there's been, one of the questions I asked of staff was, do we know if security stopped any known threats? And I believe the answer is no, that there was not any known threats that they have stopped to this point. I know that they've confiscated some items, but I think that those were kind of more incidental in nature, where somebody might have a pocket knife, hardly something that is a threat to the public. I'm sure there's a lot of employees that don't have to go through this process that probably have pocket knives in their pocket, because by its very definition, that's what a lot of people have, especially up in the North County. So I just, I get a lot of feedback from constituents that don't necessarily love to have to go through a metal detector just to engage in basic county services. And again, that's why I voted against this contract in the past. I was planning on voting against it this time as well, but in the process identified, I thought, some issues with the contracting, the procurement side that I think that need to be cleaned up. And so I'm fine. You don't need to go through the explanation because I'm going to vote no matter what, unless my colleagues want to hear the explanation. I do want to tell staff, I think you guys need to make sure that we're taking a deep look at some of these things. I shouldn't be the one up here on the dais to identify that. I think staff should be looking at those things and making sure that we're going through these processes as appropriate as possible. And I think one of the ways to assure that happens is make sure that we have that in our packet so that we know that we can check your math, because that's what we rely on you to do. And I'm a little disappointed that that wasn't done in this case.
Supervisor Lavanino.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm not going to speak to the contract itself, but more about the role of security. And personally, I don't know how everybody else has their office, but I did not feel comfortable anymore with my administrative assistant without some sort of barrier between her and the public. There are people that come in, whether we're in South County, North County, or Mid County, I can't take the risk. Yes, they might not have stopped anybody yet, but it's one of those things, they have to be right every single day, every single time. And I feel like if I'm going to have something in front of my office where my doors has a lock on it and I've got, some protective glass up for my staff, that the same should be for everybody in that building. So while I don't think it sends a great message that when you walk into a government building, you have to walk through a metal detector, unfortunately, that's the world we live in today. I didn't make the world that way. Other people have acted out in manners that we have to protect our staff, we have to protect ourselves. And quite frankly, if you happen to get through that metal detector, I just don't have glass in my office. So there's that would probably be the wrong place to come is the 5th District office, but
Fourth too.
the 4th as well. So I understand that you had an issue with the contract. I think it was a good catch on your part, even though it turned out that I think the provider that was chosen would still be the provider. But as far as security goes, this is a world we unfortunately live in. It wasn't our creation, but we have to respond to it.
Supervisor Hartman.
I have a friend who did a study of embassies throughout the world, and they used to be the symbol of openness and American democracy, and people could go in and out, and now they're fortresses. And the same has happened in Washington, D.C. And unfortunately, we've seen even at the Santa Maria courthouse, where there was somebody, and we honored with a resolution the heroes who acted quickly with a security firm. So it's the world we live in, and none of us likes that aspect of it, but I think it would be irresponsible not to have security. So I'm ready to move staff recommendation on this item.
Yeah, I just wanted to note that $1 million of this, which is a fairly big portion of it, 1 million comes from state and federal funds, and that's significant. 1 million out of 2.5, I think. So I'm supportive of it as well, but appreciate the due diligence you take to read these with a keen eye. So I appreciate that. I think we have a motion. Is that correct? Or if not, may I have a motion?
I'll make the motion to move a staff recommendation.
I thought I did, but I'll second.
Okay. Let's do a roll call vote.
Supervisor Lavanino.
Aye.
Supervisor Hartman.
Aye.
Supervisor Nelson.
No.
Supervisor Lee.
Aye.
And Chair Capps.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-1.
Okay. We are done with our departmental agenda as well as our administrative agenda. We're going to move into closed session. County Council, please give us a preview of what we'll be discussing.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. The board is scheduled to consider conference with labor negotiators, and that's the board sitting as the board of Santa Barbara County Public Authority for In-Home Supportive Services. The employee organization is United Domestic Workers of America at Local 3930, and the agency designated representatives are CEO Monami Sato and Social Services Director Daniel Nilsson. The agenda also includes conference with labor negotiators for employee organization SEIU Local 620, but we're not going to be hearing that item today. So we just have the one item, and the time estimate's 30 minutes.
Okay, we are back from closed session. County Council, please give us a report.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. The board met in closed session on one item of labor negotiations, with the board sitting as the Board of Santa Barbara County Public Authority for In-Home Supportive Services, and the board took no reportable action.
Okay, thank you so much. We will adjourn until our next meeting. I'm just double checking that date, October 7th. Okay, we'll see you all then. Thanks. Bye.